To shift your attention.
Okay, so now we're going to do something different today.
Anyway, folks, I'll leave
Do you see what's going on with my fluorescent lights?
Yeah, until we speak again next time.
As if it doesn't get any better, right? I think it's my baluster. Or ballast, or whatever it's called. So I figure it will actually go right off. It will just kick right off, right? Hold on a minute. Okay, what I got to talk about is kind of important here. Only because of what our governments are doing. What's new, right? But this is the conditions I work under, people. I don't have time to try and figure out how to climb up there and start unscrewing shit and looking for the ballast and taking the ballast out and trying to reorder a new one, and just, I don't have the money for it, to hire somebody to do it. And you know, my landlady's in India now, as if she's going to do it. I have one trick I can try. I have a larger bulb. So I'm going to switch over one bulb and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, then at some point in the near future, I'm going to have to try and fix it myself. I guess in that situation, that's where YouTube will come in handy. I have, and I'm trying to be positive about it, right? Because I bought, I don't have them right now, but I'll get them later. They're little machines that test the voltage on things. And I bought like different kinds so that, you know, after I'm all done with the food, I can veer off and do something else, right? And one of those projects was to start teaching Andre about electricity and voltage and, you know, that kind of stuff. So I got the little meters to be able to read the voltage of batteries and just wires or whatever it may be, right? And it does it in different calculations. So anyway, I can use that. I'll bring them out. I'll show you. So in the meantime, yesterday, I managed to jar up one box of cornmeal. So that's two boxes now jarred up. We gave one box to Tisha, so that's 3 boxes gone. Right, done. And I got one more, which I'm going to wash the jars today and try and get them done either by tonight or tomorrow. And then that's done. And then, like I said, the only thing that I would want in a month or two would be a batch of organic cornmeal. And I'd probably do it at 50 pounds. Instead of doing 25, I'd do 50 pounds, simply because of the size of my overall family. Because I don't think about just me and my 2 grandkids. I think about Tisha and Alex and, you know, the little babies, Alea May and Kyrie, and I think about my son and, you know, that type of thing, right? And the postman, in case he shows up with his kids, right? Being that he showed such an interest in what was in my boxes, right? So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to call this video Let's Play Survival. It's more than prepping, okay? You can keep me company today. Or maybe I'll talk and upload this and then I'll start a new video. Otherwise, it just gets funky. And I'm having problems. Like, I have problems with my computer. I turn it on and it goes, right? So I have to turn it on and on, off and on, off and on, off and on, off and on, until finally it kicks in and it's not being, like, noisy. But, I mean, you can only do that for so long before it just won't turn on. We got problems with my lights, which more than likely I'm going to have to climb up there and fucking figure out how to fix that shit, right? And, right, I'm not even going to go down that path right now. I'm not trying to bitch, okay? And then underneath my sink, it's still leaking, right? So, you know, I'm just like Did my house get hit with a EMP or something here, people? Like the freaking computer goes in one day, the fucking lights go the next day. Well, we know the sink has been dripping for a while, but besides that point. Okay, so, you know, I'm watching videos on YouTube, right? Yesterday, I had a good day in terms of I got the cornmeal done. So that's done. One complete box of beans is pretty much done. So I got one more beans to do and one more box of, that's the black-eyed peas, right? And one more box of cornmeal, which hopefully will be done by tomorrow. I'm thinking to start doing some cabbage today. One in the small little water fermenter that I have. And when I take these jars downstairs, I'm going to see if I can scoop up on that 2-gallon crock pot that I have, the Ohio stoneware. And I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to see if I can get cabbage started in that. And then, in another week or so, that's when I'll try that other 3.69 liters, whatever it is, water fermenter from, you know, that basically was given to me as a gift because of that little chip, right? We'll just try it, right? Because of what's going on in the world. Being that, you know, it's we're playing survival here, right? Because you can water bath fermented sauerkraut because of the type of vegetable that it is. Okay? It's because it's cabbage. That's why you can do it. Not everything you can do. Okay, so we're going to work on that. Hopefully I'll have cabbage out by the end of the day, chopping it up, and I have to weigh it, and right. I'll look for some salt. This one should be fine. I don't know if that's enough though. All right. So anyway, you know, with this posturing of nuclear war, and this is kind of what this video is about in terms of Let's Play Survival. I did the apples. I'm bouncing, aren't I? Because I'm trying to gear myself up. I canned last night some of those Ambrosio's apples. I did 12 jars, just applesauce for Amari or whoever, right? I have a few apples left, so maybe I don't know, depends. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them yet. So in the meantime, my goal is just to kind of just keep getting things going, right? So I figure as soon as I'm pretty much done with this, what I'm doing now, you know, just go about my business, wash my jars, get them in dried and labeled, and get them downstairs, get the cornmeal downstairs, you know, get the crock pot up, right? And wash more jars, and then depending on the time, right? Because I'm doing it in a strobe light situation here too, right? And sometimes this light will just completely kick off, and it won't turn back on. And then, I don't know, 20 minutes later, you turn it on and it goes back on. So this is all I have basically right now. And see if I can get on with getting cabbage fermented, right? And then after that, I still have the butter to do. So we're going to be getting into doing the butter, whether we're canning butter or making ghee, something. Okay, I'm going to can something. And then I'll do the pork fat and make lard. Those are like the things that I kind of have to do, right? And I'm basically doing it because I'm playing survival. Right? I want the extra lard, just in case. I want the sauerkraut, fermented sauerkraut, just in case. Right? I mean, canning in jars, well, that's pretty much been a standard thing with me. So, here, let's just get with it. Okay, do you see this book? I ordered it on Amazon because I watch a YouTuber called Canadian Prepper. He's up in Saskatchewan, And he does a lot of survival. Like, he's a prepper, but he's more with the, you know, like the kind that can grab the bug out bag and run off into the bush and can set up a tent and do this and do that, right? Well, you know, I've mentioned in the past through his comment section that it's not that simple for some of us. Like, could you see me packing up a Mari and running off to the bush with a bug out bag? Like, it ain't happening, right? I mean, my only alternative would be to go downstairs and turn it into a bunker and pencil the kids in with blankets and, you know, try and insulate them from anything harmful when it comes to radiation because of war. All right. So this is where we have to play that survival game, right? So, you know, like, I'm going to be going back downstairs, working down there, and now that, you know, this war situation is just getting kind of out of control in a lot of ways, you know, I just thought that maybe I should just highlight on this a little bit. Okay, now I ordered the book because Canadian Prepper recommended it, and I found it interesting at the time when he was talking about it, in light of what we've been going through in general over the last couple of years, and what our spidey senses are telling us, okay? Right? And he did a video today, and he was talking about, you know, radiation and the thyroid, and you know, that countries are stocking up on radiation pills, right, in case of nuclear war, because what happens is, if something like that happens where you got all of a sudden all this radiation in the environment, your thyroid, if it doesn't have enough iodine in it, your thyroid, if it doesn't have enough iodine, the proper kind of iodine in it, right, it's going to absorb the iodine that's in the environment. I don't know if it's cesium-134 or cesium-137. I'd have to Google it. But one of those cesiums is a radioactive from fallout, from bombs and that kind of stuff. Okay, it's nuclear plants, right? It's the harmful radiation. So what happens is, if it comes, right, and you come into contact with it, and it has a half-life, I think, of 8 days or something. I mean, different isotopes have different half-life, right? But okay, so if you're depleted in iodine, right, your thyroid will just absorb it. Okay, and calcium plays a role in it too, somehow, some way. It's a false. The radioactive iodine is a false iodine, and because it's false, it attacks your bone mass through the calcium. It depletes calcium in your body. That's one thing that it can do, right? So the idea is, if you don't know, right, is you want to have, if something happens and a bomb goes off and you know radiation is coming your way, you want to just bring your thyroid up to a point where it's full, so that when the radiation comes, right, the iodine, the radioactive iodine, right, I mean, you're going to come into contact with it, and there's only so many places it can go, and the thyroid is one of them. So if your thyroid is full, it can't penetrate and replace it. Your body just won't absorb it because you already have enough iodine in your system. That's the concept around these iodine pills. In the event of, it just brings a barrier, okay? So anyway, he was talking on about, he brought the subject of this book up again. The last time I seen him mention this book, I ended up ordering it, right? I just haven't had time to talk about it yet. But we're going to talk about it a little bit today, because he brought up the fact that, you know, with what's going on, it might be a good idea to stock up on a little bit of iodine. Assuming that you can find the right kind. Okay, because there's different kinds. Some are external. You just put on your skin and you absorb it through your skin. Now, whether that goes into your thyroid, I don't know. Some is ingestible. Now, I do have iodine drops here from way back in the day, probably from 2011. As far as I know, iodine doesn't go bad. Okay, as far as I know. And it was at that time, and I got it from a thrift store, and it obviously, you know, Fukushima was probably on my mind at the time. And it was 1 drop per day. Okay? For how long? I don't know. I just stopped using it. I know where it is. I'll see if I can drag it out. Now, I bought black walnut oil for a dewormer if it ever needed to have. I don't know if I bought iodine because I was thinking, like in terms of on Amazon, because I was thinking of going to a health food store and maybe talking to somebody there first, because whatever I was finding on the internet just didn't seem like, I don't know. I'd have to go into my little bottles to see if I actually ordered. Outside of that, there is a section here, radiation sickness, right? In relation to nuclear meltdowns, radiation exposure, types of nuclear weapons, damage caused by nuclear attacks, radiation, biological, chemical events. All right. Radiation exposure, nuclear reactor meltdown, radiation sickness, preventing radiation sickness, right? Limit time spent in the open. Okay. Radiation damage is dependent on the length of exposure. Leave areas where high levels are detected. I have a couple of other little things that pick up like radiation from devices and stuff like that. But I don't know if it can pick it up in the environment. It's not like an actual quote-unquote radiation detector. The activity of the radioactive particles decrease over time because certain particles have different half-lives. After 24 hours, levels usually drop to 1/10 of their previous value or less. It depends on the isotope. Increase the distance from the radiation source. Shield people to decrease radiation where they are. In many cases, people may have to shelter in place. See, that's where, with me and my kids, and grandkids, right? I don't have a choice. I can't grab my bug-out bag and fuck off. I have to shelter in place, right? So in light of what's been going on, the next time I go downstairs, which is very soon, you know, I already warned my son that I might have to bring the kids down there, but I'm going to start making a little, you know, pile of blankets, and we got our gray tape here, and right? I know where the plastic is, you know, right? Find means and ways to be able to hang blankets in, because you want to create like a, you know, a little bit of a barrier. But keep in mind, radiation can travel basically through anything, but I guess it depends on the isotope, right? In many cases, people may have to shelter in place. Shielding will decrease exposure exponentially So it is important to know how to construct a barrier between your people and the radioactive source. Denser materials will give better protection. Okay? I have wood out there a little bit in the garage if I need it, okay? And then I've got blankets, right? I'm just saying. Plus I've got plastic for windows if I need it, okay? This is what this video is about. Maybe you should be thinking just in the back of your mind, not that you want to, right? But, you know, just have a little backup plan of some kind. If you're going to shelter in place, you got to figure out where you're going to do it and how you're going to do it, okay? If you figure you can grab a bug out bag and hit, you know, run for the hills and, you know, and you've got gas masks and all this other crap to protect you and the right kind of tents and all this, then fine, so be it. It works for you. But for most people, I don't think that's practical. Types of radiation, right? Shielding effective measures in terms of having thickness. This is the thickness of a particular material that will reduce gamma radiation, the most dangerous kind, by 1/2. Okay, so we know gamma radiation now is the most dangerous, right? When you multiply the halving thickness, you multiply your protection. For example, the halving thickness of concrete. Well, okay, well that's not going to... I live in a wood house. In the basement, it's half in the ground, so there's a bit of concrete there. What I have to worry about is dust particles coming in through the vents and the windows and down through the chimney and that kind of stuff, right? But then the chimney I would need for heat. So how does that work? I bought screen, so maybe I can think about that. I don't know. So talking about a concrete bunker, but, you know, that's not happening. I mean, there's only so many places you can shelter in place. Right? Treatment of radiation sickness. It looks like it's talking about the one kind of iodine. Emergency treatment of radiation sickness involves dealing with the symptoms. Fluids may be needed to reverse dehydration. Remember I told you get really dry? That's what happened to us after Fukushima. You know, blew its stack and then the rains came and everything was rained on. Everybody got real dry lips and rashes and really tired, didn't want to eat, right? Just wanted to sleep. And drugs like, there's some drug here, Zorfan, can alleviate nausea. Antibiotics such as amoxicillin and a couple of other ones are helpful treatments to treat infection. So I guess I'm going to have to read this a little bit. Right? I don't know how practical it is, but it's pretty thick. It's got a lot of information in it. Okay? I think I only paid something like $56 for it because it's in black and white. It's not in color. I ordered the color, but I was willing to pay more for color, but instead I got this one. I don't know. Or it advertised as color. I ordered it and it came in black and white, but for what it's worth, you know, it's the information that you want. It talks about a lot of different things. So whether I talk about what's in there, but I guess it sounds like I should probably just try and touch base and read up on a few of these things and work on that sheltering in place. How practical it is, I don't know. I don't know. Right? So today, I am just going to worry about getting this stuff moving along and maybe try and get this cabbage, a couple of heads. I could probably only do 2 or 3 heads of cabbage, or 2.5 heads of cabbage. 1 in 1 and maybe 2 in a 2-gallon. Right? I'd have to see. I can probably get 2 heads of cabbage in there. So I think that's what I'm going to try and shoot for by the end of the night. Right? Assuming that I get salt that I know, you know, I have to go dig for others. I have tons of salt in this house. I just put it all away, and I've been, you know, cooking so much and canning and doing whatever. Just, I've been using a lot of salt. So this salt here, what happened was, I had the Himalayan salt, right, in its nice little containers and whatever, and then eventually, you know, I discovered that I was just basically using salt with no iodine, right? So I decided to go off and buy salt with quote-unquote iodine in it, a high mineral salt with iodine in it, and then I ended up taking some of that salt and I mixed it in with my Himalayan salt. So I don't know what salt is what salt anymore when it's like these kind of salts kicking around. Although this one here is probably okay. This is just a basic mineral salt. But guess what? Look, it's broken. What the hell happened there? Oh boy. See, it's always something. Look at that. Always something. Alright. If it's not flashing lights, it's the computer. If it's not the computer, it's underneath the sink. And now it's containers being busted up that I'm not even aware of. Like, how did that happen? Andre, what have you been doing in here? Look, this broke. Why? Why did this break?
What broke?
This.
I don't even know what that is.
That's a container with salt in it.
Yeah, but I did not touch it.
Of course not. But if you're pushing things into the counter,
No.
Anyway, we'll be back.
Because
Okay.
they don't want to admit they got hurt. They got
So
attacked.
it's now March
They're gonna
6th,
say you're the bad person.
2022,
They don't take that
4:30 in the morning.
side effects, 'cause the real effect is to be nasty.
Watching my light.
That's not true. You think you know it all. Facts
I'm
are
in a
the same.
discotheque.
It's a spirit of delusion. Most of my family's awake, but I have family
I'm like,
that will not.
okay, Judy, tomorrow,
And one of
today,
them took
today.
both the Pfizer shots and got sick.
I got a larger bulb.
And is now lost.
I bought 2 different sizes.
Most of their ways look like
The other one is more for plants. But anyway, because there used to be a larger bulbs, right? Anyway, I'm going to change the bulb and see if that works and fixes this problem. Otherwise, people, I'm like, okay, Judy, you can do this. Okay, like, you know, it's not that hard to climb up there and make sure the power's off first, right? And unscrew a few screws and take down the casing and identify what a baluster is and Google the model number and or depending on you see.
It's so weird. It's such a curse.
One time I tried to change a socket here. Like when I first moved in, man. Oh my God, everything was sparking. So, anyway, I tried to change one, right? Before I realized that the whole house needed to be changed. And it was on this wall. And it wasn't your standard outlet. It had an extra wire, and I didn't know what to do with it.
It eats the liver. The biggest problem
I don't know.
with
So anyway,
stuff,
electrician came and did it,
they've got
right?
mRNA technology that
Went,
can
ended up going through the whole
literally
house. And then we had to do the basement, and that guy didn't do it right, and then she had to have somebody else come and do it. So I just don't know if there's going to be an extra wire up in there, right? Because I'd like to put a chandelier type with the larger clandescent bulbs, right? But then on having to deal with, you know, this little lamp here and trying to do things in the dark, or dealing with this crap, you know, light is light, people. Right? Like, I'm happy to have my lights back, and I'm trying to ignore this and, you know, get things done, right? This is what I'm doing right now. Right, I'm just trying to, you know, just keep going, right? So, I'm working, and I'm telling myself, you know, okay, as soon as you get this out of here, right, you know, and then, yeah, I'm going to have to turn off the power and get up there and more than likely try and do something. I just wanted to show you what's going on. Okay. I'm still in the discotheque. Oh, yeah. Remember those days? The good old days? Dancing? I do. Look at the cute little bottles that I found.
If you impose a no-fly zone, you are joining a war.
Isn't that cute?
And right now, NATO does not want to be a part of this war, clearly. So what
I don't know what to put in them yet.
One is to prop
Nice.
up Ukraine's own air
Really
defense.
nice.
How can they do that? By providing more fighting by sending
Oh, I'm trying to get motivated here.
seems to be moving in that direction. Last month,
I was moving things around all day yesterday.
Ukraine,
All day,
Ukrainian
people.
pilots were dispatched
Lifting these heavy cases of jars.
The deal stalled. The fighter jets
Yeah.
remained grounded. It took another appeal from Volodymyr Zelensky to grease the deal.
So, what am I going to do today?
He said, if you cannot impose a no-fly zone, at least send your jet.
I'm listening. All right. Anyway, I think I'm going to do some laundry. I got the crock pot up. All right. I really want to get on with this cabbage. So I'm going to see if I can try and get myself some workspace here. And
Obvious candidate to
just follow through on it, right?
It has a fleet of Soviet
Slowly but surely, inch by inch, right?
so no additional.
Okay, so I'm going to finish this video, but before I do, I just want to talk a little bit about Ukraine here, right? And what's going on in the world, okay? Because obviously it's influencing my behavior here, okay? One thing I noticed yesterday when I was in the basement, and, you know, I have to put things away, people, right? Got to balance that weight and shit, right? And, you know, I got to make sure jars aren't going to pop and, you know, things aren't going to sweat in terms of food storage and that kind of shit, right? You know, and just whatever, right? You know, making plans for a yard sale at some point, you know, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, as I'm going through the food stuff, right, eventually I'll take you downstairs into Auntie Shemai's room. I ended up taking out a desk from there. It took all day, right? I took out a sewing desk, and I put it in Tisha's room, quote-unquote, the business room now, right? And it's still her room, though. She still pays for it, people, okay? And I took out a little table, right? Because I need to measure fabric. I'm going to, you know, I'm either going to sew it or I'm going to sell it. Or we'll save it for a rainy day. There's only 3 choices that I can do. Right? So I need a little table of some kind to be able to measure, whether by yard or by meter. Okay. I'm not going to rush with this. So anyway, I got those out. It was a real pain in the ass to do it, but I managed to do it. And you know, I'm wanting, you know, I have to do everything in increments, right? And so, okay. So I've got now Auntie Shimei's room, basically sewing, still, a little fabric in there, right? That kind of stuff. And food storage, mainly food storage and that type of stuff, right? It's almost at a 50-50. I want to take out all the bins and just build a nice little bookshelf, a nice wood bookshelf for jars. Just in one, but that's, who knows when that will happen. Okay, so anyway, as I'm going through all this, I'm like internally inside, you know, the wheels are turning, right? Asking myself, okay, what is it that you want more of? Because you get it off your chest if that's the case, right? In terms of food storage. Because honestly, I'm just getting like really kind of fed up with it. I'm getting kind of tired of it. You know, I have been for a while. I gotta go turn off this kitchen light. It's flashing in there. Hold on. Andre asked me, he says, Nana, when are you going to fix the flashing lights? Right? And I'm like, yeah, well, when Nana has time to climb up there and disconnect everything. He reminded me to make sure that I turn off the power in the house. I said, you're right. So that's good. So, okay. So what was I saying? So, because, you know, I want to finish up and get on with other things in life here, okay? So, you know, I'm going through things, doing whatever, and honestly, people, I'm at the point where I just really don't want too much more. So that's really good. When you get to that point, you know what I mean? I mean, of course, you can take more, but do you really want more, right? And I'm at the point now where I really don't want too much more, other than to better organize what I already have. Okay. So that's good, you know. I mean, it's taking up time. I worked all day yesterday, and, you know, now I'm basically going to work all day today, right? And by the end of the night, hopefully I'll be able to have it ready to maybe start the cabbage tomorrow, which would be great. I already pre-warned my son that after I get these two going, I want to attempt to use that big fermenting crock pot that I have, right? So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe I'll do cucumbers in that. Maybe, I don't know, it depends. Okay, so going into Auntie Shimei's room, you know, I cleared out the desk and the table and kind of moved things around a little bit, right? And so what was the point of that? There was no point. I'm tired. That's what it is. So let's talk about Ukraine. I'm listening to the president of Ukraine gaslighting everybody. As if everybody's got to run off and go save Ukraine. Drop everything and go run off and give up your life. That's the first thing. I'm like choked that this individual is drafting all the men in the country to fight for something that on his own he couldn't win. Right? So therefore now he's gaslighting NATO to give everything to Ukraine. To what end? And the thing is, we're not even getting the whole story here, people, in terms of the internal corruption within the government and just their society, right? And when I say their society, you know, through my travels on YouTube, stay focused, through my travels on YouTube, I come across a few content creators that have I wouldn't say highlighted, but mentioned that black people in general in the Ukraine are treated differently than other people. Even under duress, as in terms of what's going on right now. Now, they don't go into detail as to how they're being mistreated, but being a Ukrainian myself and being the black sheep basically within my family through generational, I don't know, right? Right? I went against the grain, people, right? I got that one drop rule in my bloodline now. And my Ukrainian family resents me for that. But then my mother was a black sheep even before I was born. So it kind of followed. Me having children with a black man only allowed my family to continue on with their prejudices. And then they had a finger to point at, right? In terms of, oh, you had black children, somehow you're not qualified to be Ukrainian now, in terms of true blood. Whatever the fuck that means. But besides that point, I like to think that I brought diversity to the bloodline. Okay, diversity, people. And if Shimei would have been alive today, she would have been a genius. Well, she was a genius. You see, that's the thing. That's why they took her out. Right? Whether she inherited it from me and my bloodline, or whether she inherited it from her dad's side on his bloodline. So, no regrets on my part, right? But the thing is, I just know how white people in general can be. Okay? It has nothing to do with being a Ukrainian. Alright? Although Ukrainians can be pretty snitty. My family doctor is a fucking Ukrainian, for crying out loud. And look how he treated me, people. My last name, Chorny, in Ukraine is black. Okay? Right? Throw in some black kids. Somebody in the Ukraine community is going to be pointing their fingers at me. Okay? People always pointing fucking fingers. So anyway. Right? Who hasn't had somebody point fingers at them? Okay? Somebody's always bitching and complaining on about something. They try and find your weak parts, right? To tear you down so that they can elevate themselves. Ukrainians are no different than anybody else on the planet. So, you know, like, what is this president expecting to get? Is he going to become the ruler of the world because he can boss all these countries around to come in and save him? When in fact, there's probably political issues that Putin wants to take care of on a diplomatic level, right? Even if it takes you back 100 freaking years to get there, in terms of the history that Putin quotes and is looking for acknowledgement for, right? I mean, there's two sides to every story. If I was a Russian living on the outskirts of Ukraine, being abused by Ukrainians, and we're talking about shelling, like shooting like missiles or bombs or whatever, you know, into the community just to disrupt people, like whatever's been going on has been going on for a long, long time, to the point where I guess Putin decided enough is enough, right? If you're going to keep bombing Russian people who live on the border of Russia and Ukraine because you're trying to, I don't know, scare them off. I mean, that's something that the Ukrainian president has to address, right? There has to be a medium, right? You can't just expect people to pack up in large numbers and go somewhere else. The other thing is, you have to remember, Putin knows what's going on in the world when it comes to AI, robots, human cloning, and chimera development in terms of taking human DNA and mixing it with animal or whatever other DNA to create a hybrid of something, right? that is justified to be a super soldier. Like, he knows all this stuff, people. So whether he's fostering it along and wanting it to happen because he feels he gets a piece of the pie, or whether he's really trying to preserve family values, right? National sovereignty, right? In terms of, being one country, something like what Canada used to be. Canada is not a country anymore, people. Canada is a pawn to perhaps what Putin is fighting against, okay? So anyway, like, I think it's pathetic, honestly, I do, that a so-called president can just gaslight a whole generation of men for a cause that he'd probably never win. Honestly, people. Okay? Because the rabbit hole is deeper than that. It's like the president himself needs to drain the swamp, his own swamp. But it doesn't look like he's willing to do it because he's more interested in keeping the fucking status quo. Okay? And I know what it's like to be targeted living in your community and nobody standing up and fighting for you as a Canadian. Okay? Right? Whether it's Russian, Canadian. Right? Okay? You're right? Versus an invasion of something that completely disrupts your life to the point where you never feel safe. Okay? The people that live in that zone where they're fighting over is in that position. Okay? So, I mean, there's nothing I can do. I can just keep an ear to it. Right? And work on my bunker. Right? When have you ever heard me talk about working on the bunker? And we know where my bunker is. It's in the basement living room, okay? That's my bunker, people. So why don't we leave it on a good note? Because this video, I don't know, I'm going to, as is, okay? I'm working too hard to be making videos here right now. I'm keeping a pretty rough pace, okay? And but I don't want this accumulating. Sometimes I'm like delete it, just delete it, right? I just recently did that. I did some videos. And I deleted them. And I don't normally do that, but I just wanted to get off the bandwagon of being negative, right? Like our governments have brought so much negativity into our lives. Seriously. Like so much. And it's, for some people it's going to start becoming desperate, right? Because, they rely on vehicles to get to work and just gas and, that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah. But yeah, no, Ukraine, I don't know. It seems like quite the little shit disturber, don't you think? Huh? Right? I don't know. Why not just give Putin what he wants? He should back off, right? Why keep feeding the beast if there is a beast in there? Right? Why keep making threats and posturing and right? Just to keep everybody on edge, right? Why make it worse, right? In terms of cutting off their credit cards and, bank running out of money and, why make it worse? Companies pulling out of Russia, like why? IKEA pulling out of Russia, why? Right? What is everybody trying to accomplish so that they get their, what is that called? That passport thing? Who's pushing the passport here? Nobody's talking about that global passport. Is NATO the one pushing the passport? their countries. Canada is, that's for sure. I can tell you that right now, right? You know, that's what I mean. It's just a pawn. It's not a country anymore, people. Canada isn't a fucking country anymore. Okay? It's I don't even want to get into that. Is Putin pushing the passport? The global passport? Right? Cutting off people's MasterCards and closing bank accounts and all this crap. Is that going to make people sign up to a global passport? Who controls that data? You think Putin's going to control the data? I don't know. It's the Russian people's data. You think he should have the right to do that? So I think the president of Ukraine is being very selfish. I really do. To ask a whole generation of men from 18 years old to 60 years old to give up their life for a cause that goes way deeper than what we're being fed on the surface. Okay? Right? The one who controls the robots will be the one who controls the world. Remember that, people, okay? That was stated quite a few years ago. We're in a time now where they've already brought out the super soldiers into the crowds. You're just not noticing them yet. Mr. Toucan, okay? Telling you, Mr. Toucan, he was everywhere, okay? You just didn't notice it, all right?